Hello, and welcome back to this session of the 2021 online KBHC experience, an offering of Cormont music and our gift to the horn community. In this session, we feature Susan McCullough, retired horn at Lamont School of Music at the University of Denver, principal horn with the Denver Brass, and member of the Advisory Council of the International Horn Society. I'm your moderator, Elizabeth Simmons, Eastman doctoral student, horn faculty at the Eastman Community Music School, and freelancer. Before we jump into this session, of course, a few Zoom housekeeping items that I'm sure you're very all familiar with at this point, but we'll go through them anyway. So that we may be able to hear the presentation, we've muted all participants. Please stay muted for the duration of the session unless one of our presenters asks you to unmute. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, you should see a participant list pop up with your name at the top. If the name associated with your Zoom account is different from your own first and last name, please click on the blue More button next to your name, select Rename, and enter your first and last name. This will help us know who it is we're communicating with. If you click on Chat at the bottom of the screen, you should see the chat box appear. Comments posted in the chat are affected by the drop-down menu above the text box. Depending upon your selection, your comments may be viewed by everyone or by individual participants. Each time that you enter a comment into the chat, please double check your selection so that your comment is seen by your intended audience. And with that, I'll hand this session off to Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be a part of the KBHC community. And I've been very impressed with how this week has gone. It's just been such a great week. I understand we have 3 brave volunteers who are going to play for us today. So I'm not
Yes.
sure who would like to go first.
So let's have Amanda go first, and then we can have Erin go after that. And Amanda's already done her sound check because she joined us early. So Amanda, if you can turn your camera on, that would be great. There you go, and then we'll get you spotlighted and good to go.
And Amanda, first of all, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and also what you're going to be playing for us?
Well, I picked up the horn in junior high and ended up joining the military, the Canadian military, as a musician. So that's where I play now. A lot of the time that means that I'm playing things that are not very horn interesting. So I like finding things to play on my own to kind of compensate for the fact that a lot of the stuff that I play at my job is not exceptionally exciting. And the piece that I picked to play is from the Appalachian Suite by, I've suddenly forgotten his name, Daniel Baldwin. And it's the third movement. And I found this one by chance because somebody had recommended something on Horn People on Facebook. And when I went and found the recording that they were referring to, it also had Appalachian Suite on there. And I fell in love with it as being a really, really pretty song about a boy's experiences. He's climbing a mountain and a storm that comes in, which is in the second movement. And the third movement, it's at night when the stars are out. And so it's a lot more lyrical and calm. And I just really, really liked it. So that was why I picked it.
Cool. Okay, you can just go ahead and start.
Great.
Okay, is that it? I don't know the piece, so I didn't have it in front of me. Is that the whole movement?
Yep, that's the whole
Okay,
movement.
very nice. I can see why you fell in love with this piece. It seems like it's just so lyrical and beautiful, and I'd love to hear it with the accompaniment sometime. Um, my first impression is I just think you've got to get more air through the horn. Of course, it's really hard over Zoom to tell what anyone's doing with air or sound or anything else. But it feels to me like you are kind of delivering. Get my horn here. You're kind of delivering your sound and your air to right here, and then letting the horn kind of take over after that, if you will.
Okay.
What I'd suggest is think more through the horn, not to the horn. And we'll get into this more later when I'm talking about the topic I'm going to talk about. Um, I would recommend doing some breathing exercises. Maybe you do. Do you have any that you do regularly?
I do have I forget again who's written it, the breathing book, which
Breathing
I've done
gym?
something in that.
Breathing gym?
Could be. I don't remember.
Okay, that's kind of my favorite. Sam Palafian wrote it. Um, there's some real good exercises in that. And, those should be something that you just do every day with your warm ups. It's just like part of the warm up because we are warming up our lungs as well as our lips. So we got to remember that. So I'd like to start this again and just encourage you to just take a huge breath and then just do the most comfortable thing that comes natural, which is let it go into the horn and picture this air going all the way through these crazy miles of pipes, coming out the other side, bounce off the back wall, go out to whoever's listening to you. Um, One thing I did notice is you start out with a few nerves, it sounded like, but you kind of got over that after a while, and your breathing improved when your nerves kind of calmed themselves down. So let's give you another shot at the beginning of this. We won't go the whole way, of course, but um, I'd just love for you to just take a huge breath and then just let it just flow into your horn. You know, this I'm guessing doesn't have a lot of dynamics in this movement. I was reading a little bit about the piece since I didn't know the piece, and it sounds like the accompaniment is playing the part of the environment. And so, if you can imagine that, and your part is I can just tell by the notes it doesn't have a lot of dynamic changes in it. Maybe some swells, But what I think it needs the most is glue. It needs to, every note needs to have an identity that leads us to the next note. And sometimes, and it could be partially Zoom, sometimes you're decaying on some notes that I just want to hear really go into the next note. So very, very fluid, pushing lots of air through. For right now, I wouldn't even be too concerned about the dynamics as far as following them to a T, just because we know this is a solo and you need to play soloistically. So your dynamic right now is expressive, soloistic, fluid,
Right.
and getting the air through the horn. So let's try a little bit of it again.
Amanda, I'm so sorry to butt in right now. Could you turn down the gain on your microphone just a little bit in your audio settings? It was just clipping out a little bit right when you got to those higher dynamics. You sound great though. Sorry to butt in. I'll be gone now.
Okay, hopefully that fixes it.
Thank you.
Okay, Amanda, I'll stop you there for a minute. Much better, especially once you got into it. At first, I was still seeing this shallow breathing, and the reason you missed your first note is that things were still moving here when you started. So try to do your big breath, hold for a split second, and then start, so that everything here is in place, everything here is in place to start. We don't have a lot more time, but let's try that again. And once you got into it, I think you were starting to use your air better, and you were starting to make it a lot more fluid. So let's try to aim for that and see if we can get it from the very first note.
Okay.
Yeah, that was so much better. Your sound improved like a ton when you started moving air through the horn. And I think it's easy to look at the dynamics on the page if they're, piano or mezzo piano, and think hold back. But you should never do that, even if it's not during a solo, because that makes you actually hold back your air and your support. So it's a move forward, but it's a move forward slowly. But for a solo, I don't think that was too loud. What you just played, that was soloistic, and it made your sound improve. I could tell your breathing was improved. I think you can work on that some more, though. I think you can really work on expanding your lung capacity and using this natural resource we have in our air. You can practice breathing even when you're driving down the street and you don't even have your horn on your lap. Practice taking in huge breaths, and then practice how it feels when when you're going to play something coming from you can't see down here and up through the horn. So the horn becomes like a part of you. You're connected. You're one. But that was a great improvement. I loved it. You sound beautiful. Thank you for playing for us.
Yeah, Amanda, thank you so much for playing. I think Susan, are you ready for next masterclass participant now?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay, so I think we'll go to Erin, if that's okay, Erin. Yeah, so Erin, you will be on here now. Sorry, I just lost a setting, so I kind of fumbled over my words a little bit. But Erin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you'd like to play for us today?
Sure. Aaron Joplin. I live in South Carolina, on the coast of South Carolina, just north of Charleston. And I'm a lawyer by day, horn player at night. Well, all the other times other than times I'm being a lawyer. Um, and I have a couple auditions coming up. And on the list, one of which is the fourth horn part for Beethoven 9, and then also the first horn solo from Middleton's Midsummer's Night Dream.
Okay. Which would you like to start with?
Bef- before you start with something, I need to walk you through just a little bit of a sound check so we don't have anything clipping. But then I would love to hear the answer to that question, Aaron. Can you play a couple notes just to see? What's the loudest note you're going to be playing? Okay, so if you can, I'll take you through this as fast as I possibly can. If you can go to your audio settings, you can get there by clicking the up caret by the mute. Should be by the mute button, right there. Then you're going to automatically adjust microphone volume off, and then take your input volume down just a little bit if you don't mind. Suppress background noise should be set to low. Show in meeting option to enable original sound checked, as well as high fidelity music mode and echo cancellation, please.
Okay.
Okay, and then play a couple more notes. Okay, take it just a little bit further down, just a hair. It's just clipping right at the top of the top of your high notes. Sorry. Much better. Okay, I'll get out of here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, Aaron, tell me which one you would like to play first, knowing that I think we have one more person that's going to play for us today, so it's possible we won't get to the second of your excerpts, or maybe won't have as much time on the second one.
Let's do Beethoven 9.
Okay. Great. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Okay, is the audition asking for this entire part that you just
Yes,
played?
ma'am.
Okay, great. Nice job, really nice. Your tempo is on the slow end of what I usually hear. However, having said that, I read a statistic of someone who researched this, and of the top symphonies, what speed they use, and it varies by as much as 9 minutes between how long it is between the different symphonies. So I think you're fine with this tempo. I think it's a little bit more difficult with this tempo because your challenge is to keep your notes really growing into the next note, and not have decays that'll make it sound like it's going vertical on us instead of horizontal. So but really, really nice job, some really great stuff in there. Your low F, when you get to it on the second bar, are you doing B flat horn or F horn? I can't see your valves in the picture.
F horn.
Okay, you might experiment with B flat, just because I noticed that one was a little challenging for you, as well as later on, when you had it later in the piece. I think you could experiment with B flat just to get it to zing in a little bit, and then just be really aware that it's likely going to be a little bit high, and you're going to need to cover it. Or just really, what I like to do is think of it as warmer, like warm up the note,
Hmm.
um, down there, but cover it definitely, just a little bit. Um, okay, going back up to the top part. Again, on Zoom, it's a little hard to tell when you're slurring or tonguing things, but those three notes going into bar 93 that are the eighth notes, that have the slur and the dots, I would tongue those with a long tongue and just lead us to that next downbeat. Um, the other thing is, I don't know how much you've studied this piece, but basically, the solo, the first three lines of the solo is, through the scale, um, is is you kind of play a bunch of different roles. You start out, you're part of an ensemble, and then you're part of what's accompanying. In other words, a little bit bigger role in that ensemble. And then you go to soloist, being accompanied by the ensemble, and then you go to pure soloist, nobody else is playing. So I think that the way you're playing this sounds like you're part of the ensemble for most of the time. So what I'd love for you to do is to come out of that ensemble and be the soloist more.
Okay.
You're doing it a little bit, but I think you could do it more. Just have you listened to this enough that when you play this, you're sort of hearing the symphony with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. That's what I would definitely suggest. But become more of a soloist within that. And I know that your marking is double piano, but again, just like with Amanda, you're the soloist. So you've got to play a soloistic double piano, which means you're going to come out of the texture a little bit more. So let's see. Oh, the other thing I would suggest is um, try the scale at the end. Let's see, I guess it's about the middle of the third line there. That scale wise passage, try it in a few different ways, taking more and less liberties with it. because you don't know what the conductor is going to do. I've seen conductors that just want you to just do your thing, and I've seen conductors that want to legislate every bit of it, and everything in between. So you want to be able to change it according to how they're going to ask for it. So, you might play it one way, the way you think you'd like to do it, and then they'll say, okay, that's nice. Now can you do this? So be able to do that. So um, just play around with that and do more and less of give and take on that measure. Um, so could we, let's see how we're doing for time. Pretty good. Let's just start it again. Actually, let's start the pickup into the third full bar. This is when you're not accompaniment anymore. Well, you are, but you're more of a soloistic role in the accompaniment. Right again. Oh, here's what I would do too. Make that F pickup a little longer. Make it lead to your D and really take us to that downbeat. Okay, great. Wow, that was so much better. This is when I don't like Zoom because you can't hear everybody applauding you. But that was so much better, so much more lyrical. I loved it. I loved it. It was so much more soloistic. That was really great. At the end there, I think maybe you were kind of running out of breath a little bit, but make sure that we can hear all those notes. Dun, dun, dun. Really make them long and make sure that they're important too, basically, that we can still hear them. Um, great. Wow. I think we probably have to move on to our third player, but thank you so much for being brave enough to play for us today. And that was really great.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yay.
Great job, Aaron. Thanks for playing. Yes, so I believe Laurel is the third, yes? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, hello. There you are. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So, Laurel, if you could go ahead and play just a couple of notes for us at your loudest so that we can see if your mic is in the right kind of place in settings.
Okay.
I think we're okay in terms of clipping. Julie, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it sounds great. Let's get started.
Great. Thanks, Laurel. I'll duck out.
Beautiful. Thank you, Laurel, for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'd like to play for us?
Hi, I'm Laurel Pung. I'm a music education major. I primarily play horn, and I'm going to be playing a little bit of Lay Do by Strauss for you. I'm going to start at the last section, the one in E flat. So,
Sorry, say again what you're going to play by Strauss.
Lay Do.
Okay. And where do you go to school?
I go to Eastern Michigan University.
And what year are you?
I am going into my 3rd year.
Okay, great. Okay, if you're comfortable, why don't you go ahead and play a little bit for us? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That was great. Um, you know what? I would love for you to do what I was having Amanda do, and that's blowing more through the horn and not just to the horn. Did you hear what when I was working with Amanda? Were you there for that?
Not quite yet.
Okay. Um, I feel like that you're not being global enough with your air. What I mean by that is your air has to go clear through that horn, not just through you, but through the horn as well. And your horn becomes just a part of you, and you're one connected being or whatever. I'd like you to think about taking huge breaths and then just letting it go through the horn in a really comfortable way. The other part that I would love to see you do is make this more horizontal. And right now it sounds very vertical. It sounds like note, 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 note. But I want you to think of the overlying line that you're trying to create and make each note have a purpose that leads to the next note. Um, this is it in, what's the meter that this is written in?
This is a 9/8.
Okay, so what I want you to do is think through each eighth note. So you might have a dotted quarter that has 3/8 notes in it, but I want you to not just think of that as a dotted quarter that's its own note. I want you to think of it as 3/8 notes that are tied together, basically. And we might practice that in a minute if we end up having time. But let's start this again. Take a huge breath, and then just make it as horizontal and connected and beautiful as you can. Think of how you want your phrase to be shaped, and make your air relate to that. And let's just see what we get. Oh, one more thing. Um, sorry, I keep thinking of more things. I saw you doing what I kind of call it kind of conducting yourself, meaning you were bouncing the horn sometimes, and that's okay to do. It's okay to move. I'm not saying don't move. I'm just saying that sometimes that can make your sound more vertical and not horizontal, which is what we're going for. So I'd rather have you just really thinking horizontal on these lines rather than here's a beat, here's a beat, here's a beat. You know where the beats are. You've practiced this enough that you're a pro at that. So now just let your sound just float across those beats and glue them together a little bit. So why don't you try it again? Let's start again, because I want you to have a gorgeous sound from the very first of your first note. Make sure that everything's set here and that nothing is moving when you start your air going through that first note. you're hitting it from above when you miss it. Have you noticed that? So that means to me that says that you're aiming a little higher than where the horn says the note is. And the horn's going to win every time. The horn puts it where it is, where it's tuned to be, where you have it tuned. So maybe keep that in mind that you're missing it from above sometimes. And let's try it again. Just get that first note really beautiful. Yes. Okay, now you did what I was going to suggest next. You played it as though that was the only note on the page, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then after you get that note beautifully, you're allowed to go on. But you played it just like that's the most important note on that whole solo. Okay, so let's try it again, and this time you can keep going. Okay, the last big breath you took before was an F sharp. I don't have the music right in front of me. Back about five bars. It'd be great if you didn't need a breath there, because I think you're setting up this really great moment there, and then to take a breath kind of puts the halt onto it. Or make your breath like this. What I mean by that is you play right up to the breath, let the sound ring out into the room while you go get your breath quickly and get right back in on the same level. In other words, don't let it decay into the breath, but hold it right out. Let the room kind of take it for you for a minute, not a minute, but split second, and then come right back in on the same level you were. You might not be charged with a breath there if you do it that way, because the room's going to help you. Of course, right now you're probably not in a real resonant room, but hopefully when you play this as a solo, you would be. So really nice playing. I mean, I thought that you had some really nicely shaped phrases that time. Your sound was a lot better, and you obviously were using your air better. Whenever you do miss a note, like if you take a breath and come back in, sometimes when you miss a note, you're still doing that thing where you're still moving something at the time when you attack the next note. So just be aware of that. Maybe do you ever practice with a mirror?
I haven't in a while.
It might be a good thing, just keep one near your practice space and on the stand or whatever, and then just occasionally check in with what you look like when you take your breaths, or when you start a new phrase, and you'll see it, because you don't want to be still for too long because it becomes stale, but you do want that split second of everything is set and ready and then go. So thank you so much for playing for us, and for being brave today. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next portion of our hour here. I wanted to talk a little bit about getting in shape and staying in shape. And I have a few thoughts about both of those things. When I was in the Colorado Springs Philharmonic for 22 years, I used to think I was really in good shape. And maybe 10 years into that, stint, I got into a group called the Denver Brass. And then I found out what kind of shape I was not in, because all of a sudden I'm in this 11-piece brass group where there's 2 horns, and everyone else in the group besides the 2 horns is pointing forward, and we're pointing backwards, and everything has to be louder, and everything has to be higher, and everything is more constant than in the orchestra. I thought at first that I was going to die when I got in that group, because I just didn't know how you survived such things. And after an hour of playing with that group in rehearsal, I was really tired. So I had to get to the bottom of it and figure it out. Well, here's what I learned. What I learned, first of all, is don't make the lips do the work. Let your air do the work for you. I alluded to this a little bit when I was speaking to Amanda, and then again with Laurel. Think more globally with your air. Take huge breaths, send it through the horn, not to the horn. I can't tell you how important this is, because it really completely changed how I approached playing in general, but also playing with this brass group that I now was in. Make sure your lips are relaxed and that they're forward. What I mean by that is take your breath forward, because you don't want to play on stretched lips. That taxes the lips even more. So how I take a breath is, it encourages the forward playing, which also you'll notice puts more meat in the mouthpiece. Basically, you have more in the mouthpiece to vibrate at that point. And that's what you want. So practice this during your warm-ups is a good time to really get used to it, because pick a warm-up that you play every day, and you could play it in your sleep. So you don't have to think about the notes anymore. You can think about breathing forward and playing forward. Sometimes I like to breathe around this knuckle. So, and you can even do that during your warm-up, just, you can take all the time in the world. Take your breath, put the horn up and play, and try to just be aware of your corners being forward and being relaxed. And then whenever you do take a breath when you're playing, use that as an opportunity to relax the lips completely. Meaning, don't, try to just take your breath, but in such a way, you can practice this, in such a way that you keep your lips as relaxed as they can be. And because they're going to have plenty of time to be not so relaxed later. All of us have probably had more time off the horn lately, thanks to the virus, than we would like. And we all have to come back and, get it back after we've been off for a few days. What I kind of found out during that time is that I was really beating up my chops a lot. I was playing a ton, and I was practicing in between that, and so in some ways my chops enjoyed having a few days off here and there during the pandemic, and I came back feeling actually really good when I started trying to get my chops back, and so that's a good thing. So maybe every once in a while, if you've really had a tough schedule, it makes sense to take at least a couple days off. Another thing I might do during times like that is see if I could at least play my warm-ups during those days that I'm not going to play. That will keep you a little bit more ready to jump back in and get your chops back once it's time to do that. Here are a couple ideas about what I do to get back in shape. Let's just say I've taken a few days off and I come back and I've got to play something, I try to come back to the horn at least a week before I have to play. And 2 weeks would be better. But let's just say you come back to the horn and you've got, a week to get things back. I try to kind of trick my brain into thinking it's a new day by doing 2 or 3 sessions in a day, or maybe 4. Play a little bit, put the horn down, come back later, pretend it's the next day, play a little bit more, put the horn down, come back, pretend it's the next day. So I'm kind of tricking my brain into thinking, oh, I've been playing now for 3 days when I've really only been playing for 1. That's one thing I do. I also use the mentality that you use when you go to the gym and you do sets of weights. And what you'll typically do is you'll do as many as you can do the first set, and then you go away, and then you come back a few minutes later and you'll do as many as you can the second set, but it's usually less. And then you'll come back and do a third set of that. Well, we're working with muscles here too, so I do the same thing with that. I have to say, first of all, though, it is really, really, really important as you're getting back into shape or trying to stay in shape that you are super in touch with your own body and with your chops and what your chops can do and what they can't do. Do not push them past what they can't do. So what I might do, you can pick anything. You can pick solos, you can pick etudes, whatever is your favorite thing to play. When I'm getting back in shape, I do the good old Koprosh book. And so what I'll do is I'll come and I'll play as many Koprosh as I can in a row. And by the way, this is not going to be on my first day back after being off the horn. First day back, I might just do my warm-ups and put it down, and that's it. So this is on maybe day 2 or 3. Come and play as many Koprosh as I can play in a row, which let's just say it's 15 Koprosh in a row. Put the horn down, come back 30 minutes to an hour later, and play as many as I can in the row. Now, let's say it's probably 9 the second time. Put it down, come back a third time and play as many as you can, and it's going to be less. What you're doing is you're building muscle just like we do at the gym. And this method has worked for me so many times. It's really kind of cool how it works. But you do have to be so in touch with your own chops, and don't play Koprosh until your chops get injured. You've got to know your own body, and when you're comfortably fatigued. That's what I would maybe call it. That's when you stop, and make sure you don't push yourself past that, because you'll injure yourself if you do that. So I don't know how many of you caught my Horn Camp Connect episode in December, but I was talking about nerves and how the best thing for nerves is to be prepared. And I think that's also, it ties into this as well, in getting in shape and staying in shape. Now, going on to staying in shape, that's difficult sometimes too, because we all have, life creeps in. Your grandkids come over and they want you to play with them, and last thing you want to do is practice. But I would say be creative to come up with practice time. When my grandkids come up and say, "Nana, can you play with us?" I say, "Well, sure." And I sometimes I do this. Pick up my horn and say, "Okay, you get to name any song that you want me to play, and I'll play it, and then you sing along with me." Of course, this requires you to be really good at playing by ear. So I encourage you to develop that skill, because it'll help you with sight reading, it'll help you with memorization, transposition, it'll help you with everything else, but it'll also help you with this. So my grandkids come up and I say, I'll play whatever song you name if I know it, and then you sing along. Well, I have to tell one story. My granddaughter, during all the Frozen craze, of course, wanted to hear Let It Go, as every little girl would. And so I played Let It Go, and I said, "Why don't you work the valves?" And I played it up in the upper range of the horn, so that, up there where you can get any note with any fingering. And so she's just plunking along, pushing the valves down, and I'm playing Let It Go, and it was working, and I just completely blew her mind because she just couldn't believe that she was playing the right valves to play Let It Go. So that's just one way that you can get credit for practicing, even though you're getting credit for other things like playing with kids. Also, you can even play along with the radio or recordings of your favorite songs, maybe when no one's listening, because it might be irritating to them if you do it in front of people. But also, playing every day is really important, even if it's a little bit. It's important to staying in shape. A few years ago, I was working on a recital, and my husband has a sailboat in Florida, and I went to spend a few days on the boat with him. And I was 2 weeks out from my recital. Well, I took my horn and I said, I have to play my recital every day. And he says, okay. So first day we get up, he said, well, what do you want to do today? And I said, well, I want to play through the recital and then we can do something else. So I did. And the second day, well, what do you want to do today? I said, you mean after I play through my recital, right? So I played through my recital and then we did something the second day. I did that every day of that trip. Sometimes it was standing on the back of the boat. Sometimes it was standing on a beach. But I played through that recital every day. And when I got home, my chops were really strong. And I did great on the recital because I had just kept that up. So the other thing that you might try if you're trying to develop really strong chops is playing things several times in a row or playing them much slower than they're marked. When I'm preparing a recital, either a solo recital or brass quintet or Denver brass, and I'm concerned about endurance, I see if I can play it through twice in a day, like back to back. If you can play your recital through twice, then you're going to play through once on the night of the recital and sound like $1,000,000. Or you could even go more than twice if you're really wanting to get in shape, but at least twice, because nerves make up for some chops. Just consider that. Once you're, under the gun, you're on that stage, nerves are going to, what do I want to say? Maybe rob you of some chops just because you're going to be more tense. And we could talk for another whole day on nerves and getting a hold of that. I like to do what I call develop show chops. And what I mean by that is I play a lot of Broadway shows here in Denver. And those shows generally run 8 shows a week. So 6 days a week, 8 shows. After a couple weeks of doing that, and you're playing the same notes every day, you develop what I call show chops, which means you almost can't miss in the show. You just start playing and it pops out your bell. Anything that's not in the show, if you try to play a C scale that's not in that show, it's not going to sound good. Anything you play that's not in the show, you're going to be amazed at how, wow, I thought I could play a C scale. So anything that you want to be able to just access immediately, develop show chops. And so maybe you're working on a solo. Develop show chops for that solo by playing it a bunch. I mean, every day, several times a day. And so that it becomes a thing where you just start it and it goes. I could talk more about that, but I think I'll just move on. We have a lip building exercise that I would love to share. Elizabeth is going to share it with us. And this exercise, we can't really do it all together because it's built on you being really in touch with yourself and what limits you want high and low. If you'll notice here at the top, the C, by the way, observe the markings, absolutely, the accents, the slurs. So you're going to repeat the C, E, G, E twice, and then you're going to go up one step, and you're going to do the D, F, A twice. And so you just keep doing this and go up as high as is comfortable for you. That's why we can't do this together, because that point is going to be different for everybody. Go as high as is comfortable for you and reasonable for you to do. And then start back down, and then you're coming down, you're going to go da 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 da. So you're going kind of backwards of how it's written, coming back down. Keep going below the middle C, go down as low as you can feel comfortable, and then just end it in a nice way, whatever you choose. Then we go on to the second exercise, which is the same idea, but you're starting on the B, and you're doing tongued, and a really nice accented tongue. Do that and go again twice per measure, and then go up as high as is comfortable for you, and then come back down as low as is comfortable. The next one, these are all just the same. They work just the same. Do the way it's marked. You do 2 bars of each. Go as high as is comfortable, low as is comfortable. This was given to me when I was in college as an exercise that you can use to tax your chops, I guess, if you will, on the days that you don't have a big rehearsal. And because I went in one day complaining of that to my teacher, that, if I don't have a rehearsal, I don't feel like I've really played a lot. I've kind of learned how to fill that in since then, but this is an exercise that taxes the chops, because as you probably all know, when you tongue more, your chops feel more taxed. So if you can notice, we're starting out with less tongue and going to more tongue. By the time you get to this one, number 5, you should be feeling it. And you can do this same exercise over and over, however many times you want. But I just want to let you know that I've done this, of course, on the horn, but I've also done it on the mouthpiece. I've done it on the buzz pipe. I had to drive to Illinois for a horn symposium once, and I had 2 days in the car and had to be soloing when I got there on the program. And my chops were in fine shape when I got there, because I used this and other exercises to play the mouthpiece and the buzz pipe in the car. Gosh, we're kind of running out of time, but I was hoping to have a little bit of time for questions. Can we do that?
Yes. Hello. We just have we just have one question for right now. And I think that's probably all we'll have time for, unfortunately. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but how do you, I mean, I guess you kind of really touched on it, especially just now with you talking about your mouthpiece and buzz pipe and everything. But Sue Zollers is asking how you handle travel when you can't bring your horn. So if you could just kind of touch specifically on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I do that very same thing. I have a buzz pipe that lives in my car, and you can use that. You can use your mouthpiece. The buzz pipe, I feel like, recreates the resistance of the horn a little better than just the mouthpiece. And you can pay a lot of money for a buzz pipe, or you can do what I did, and I went to my instrument repairman and said, I want a buzz pipe. Could you make me one of those? And he said, oh, sure. I've got this old lead pipe laying back here. I'll just cut it off and cap off the end. And then he had me try it, and he cut the hole bigger, depending on what I wanted for resistance. Charged me $20 and I was out the door. So, and that buzz pipe has been great for me ever since. So you don't really have to pay a lot for a buzz pipe, but they really do help recreate the resistance of the horn.
Yeah, I agree. I got mine for like
Yeah, there you go.
$15 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, Susan, thank you so much for this session. I'm sorry we didn't have more time for questions today, but sorry?
We were packing a lot into an hour.
We were. This was a jam-packed hour-long session. So again, thank you. And thanks to all of you for attending this session of the online 2021 KBHC experience. I got those words out of order, but you know what I mean. An offering of Cormont music and our gift to the horn community. Please join us at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for a session with collaborative pianist, chamber musician, and conductor Sherry Rhodes. For her session, whew, stay six, y'all, titled The Ins and Outs of Working with an Accompanist While Playing the Hardest Instrument in the Orchestra. That's ours. It's our instrument. In the meantime, please check us out on our various social media platforms in the next half hour. You can subscribe to our YouTube page by searching for Kendallbet's Horn Camp. You can also find us on Facebook using @KBHornCamp and Instagram using @official_KBHC. Anytime you post about us or share something we posted, please be sure to include the hashtag KBHC2021. Finally, visit us at horncamp.org for more information about our upcoming online and in-person offerings. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope to see you at 3:30. Bye.